So with Diablo 4 Season 7 well underway, and especially since there seems to be a lot more content than people actually make it out to be, here are 5 beginner mistakes that you should definitely not make to ensure the smoothest and fastest progression possible. As well as, of course, maximum fun, which is the most important in my opinion. And with that, starting with mistake number 1, and that is that players often are not farming the new Headhunt events, also known as the Green Hell Tides, as efficiently as they should be. And just to take you through briefly my thought process whenever I enter any of these headhunt zones, I first of all look for any easy objectives as well as overlapping objectives, right? So the most efficient way is generally to tackle as many objectives simultaneously as you can, right? And a good example of this would be, for example, if any 2 of the whispers are really close together, such as with like the patrol one where you're kind of walking around with a guard killing monsters. If there are any other whispers around that you can stack it with, namely the dispel or uncovering the buried head rotten, those are all really quick and easy objectives to do while you're still able to do that main patrol quest, right? And of course, like the white diamond shaped objectives, those are usually good to go for, such as they would indicate like a dispel charm, right? And a couple of other whispers you should definitely stack is first of all the scour whisper, which has you searching for herbs, and these herbs will actually appear on your minimap. So you definitely want to go around clicking on the herbs to get up to 7, after which a brazier will appear and you can just click on it to kill the elite and then complete that quest. So that's definitely something you can just do while going around the zone doing the other whispers. And another one that you should definitely do is the harvest whisper, which whenever you kill monsters, they'll drop like these orange orbs, and after you collect 100 of them, you go to the harvest location, which will show up on your map, of course. And I usually will try to do this towards the end of my run within that zone. Go and click on the harvest altar and then just get a few more free grim favors that way. And probably the most important whisper to do is Fugitive, which gives you 5 grim favors for killing the big elite, which can spawn pretty easily just by clicking on the bubbles that spawn on the ground, or like the egg sacs or whatever you call them. And oftentimes when there are other players around, you'll see like the orange skull show up on your map. That's the sign to go and basically run over and try to pick up that whisper just by killing it. And oftentimes, even if you're already done with the fugitive quest, if you still see an orange skull, it might actually still be worth it to swing by just to pick up another kill, because these are one of the only ways, and not the only way, to get fugitive heads, which will be a rare resource and very valuable one that you'll be using to craft your occult gems, right? If you don't yet have all the occult gems that you need. So that is actually oftentimes like a limiting factor, this fugitive head resource. So I would actually prioritize collecting these heads over, maximizing like your efficiency with grim favors. And of course, you want to make sure to chug the elixir. That'll actually increase or double the chance of a head dropping from one of these kills. And lastly, especially if the headhunt zone is slightly larger, a mistake that I often see players make is they will actually just try to complete each and every whisper in the zone, but oftentimes, unless you're like playing the fastest, strongest build ever and are able to just clear out the entire zone of whispers like really quickly and move on to the next one, it's often not worth seeking out like the last few lone whispers just to do them, as opposed to moving on to the next headhunt zone, right? Which will again be filled with a lot of stackable objectives, which are generally a lot more efficient. And this is especially since there are usually going to be enough headhunt zones live simultaneously for you to be able to transition to another one relatively seamlessly. And next, on to mistake number 2, and that is that players will often overspend Restless Rot on unnecessary witch powers or leveling them up unnecessarily, especially since this Restless Rot will actually later on become a fairly valuable resource, again, which is not only used for witch powers, but will actually be used for very, very important occult gem crafting. And to craft these gems, you'll generally need thousands of this rot. So a couple of things that you can do to sort of minimize your spend on witch powers is to, of course, first of all, try to focus on a specific build or series of builds perhaps that will only involve a select few main witch powers that you'll be using, right? So with this strategy, you'll only be needing to level up the 6 or 7 major witch powers that you'll be focusing on for your specific build. And a second tip is to check out each witch power and look for the ranks where they get their power spikes. So for instance, some get a power spike or like a bonus effect whenever you reach a certain rank, right? Such as with rank 5 or rank 10 or rank 15 generally. So you definitely want to pay attention to those and consider stopping your leveling after you reach those power spikes to then focus on your occult gems, which again is arguably more important in a lot of cases, especially when progressing to higher torment tiers. And that actually takes us nicely to tip number 3, and that is with the occult gems. And I really want to emphasize the importance of these occult gems, not only for like the offensive capabilities that they will of course grant, but also in terms of defenses, as they're kind of similar to your regular gems, namely your skulls and diamonds, in that they give you defenses, but they actually give you both armor and all resist. So just from that, they're extremely useful for progressing to the higher torment tiers, which will of course decrease your armor and resistances for each tier that you go up by, right? And in Season 7, it is also especially important to go to higher torment tiers to be able to farm more occult gems, so to speak, because if you pay attention to the new details added to what each torment tier will actually give you in terms of their bonuses, in Season 7 specifically, you actually have higher chances of getting fugitive heads to, of course, use later on to craft your important and higher level or like rarer occult gems, right? So it is especially important to go to higher torment tiers, not only just for like the increased experience and like drops and so forth, but also just to have a better progression path and a faster way, so to speak, into crafting these very occult gems. Which again emphasizes the importance of prioritizing these gems over, say, maximizing or collecting them all, or collecting all the witch powers, right? Which goes back to tip number 2. But again, back to mistake number 3, another thing that people will do is they will kind of try to craft a bunch of different occult gems and thus waste a lot of their valuable resource, right? Namely the Restless Rot and Fugitive Heads. These are again very, very valuable, and the heads can be quite rare. So you definitely want to also focus on first getting these specific occult gems that you absolutely need for your build before you branch out to collecting any of the other ones. Similar to what you would do with the witch powers as well. And on to mistake number 4, and I suppose this is also more of a tip than specifically a mistake, but anyhow, that is that players may forget to or not know how to collect some of the last remaining so-called forgotten witch powers that they may actually need for their build, right? Such as the ever cool and powerful Perinatal ability. And the way you do this is to actually, first of all, chug the new elixir that you get in Season 7, and then head into any of the dungeons. These can be nightmare dungeons or pits to have a chance to get these forgotten altars to show up for you to then learn other witch powers. Again, if they're not absolutely necessary for your build, this may not be a priority for you, but for a lot of builds, they very well may be. And a quick way to actually get this is to use the dungeon reset feature. So of course you want to chug the elixir first to even have a chance of these appearing in a dungeon, but you can just go into, say, like a normal dungeon. And by the way, I didn't come up with this idea, and so of course credit goes to the other players who have thought of this, but Hoarfrost Demise is actually a great place to do this, and it's also really close to a waypoint. So anyhow, you can go to Hoarfrost Demise, go into that first area before you head down the stairs, and just do like a quick lap around the area to look for an altar. And if there's no altar, you simply click leave dungeon and then reset the instance and just rinse and repeat until you find a forgotten altar. So that tends to be a really efficient way if you really want to target any of these witch powers. And finally, last but not least, onto mistake number 5, and kind of moving a little bit away from the Season 7 mechanics, and that is to not completely neglect the other activities that you can do in the game, right? Because first of all, oftentimes these will help you progress your season journey a lot quicker, which will help you unlock your free rewards more smoothly. And especially some of these will give you valuable boss summoning materials that you can use to farm your very important build enabling uniques, right, from the bosses. So just for the boss summoning materials, it'll be important to knock out some of these miscellaneous events, despite the Season 7 headhunts being so good and important, of course. But I would personally suggest doing like at least 1 or 2 hell tides just to get some of the objectives out of the way, especially if you also would like to have some living steel to do rigor for any uniques, right? Just doing these 1 or 2 runs can make a very big difference in how fast you progress your season journey, which tends to be really, really good, especially in like the early to mid game. And really quickly, I also want to mention not to forget leveling up your mercenaries. I really like leveling up Subo first, not only because it's important for my Bone Spear build to give me more overpowered damage, but also because his reward track gives you more access to boss summoning materials in the free mercenary vendor within that mercenary den, right? You can actually check back every once in a while the mercenary den to see if there's any useful caches that you may want to use, right? Such as like masterworking caches or like boss summoning material caches. And of course, with more unlocking as you level up all 4 of your mercenaries. Alright, and with that, those are 5 mistakes and a few tips for Season 7 of Diablo 4. Let me know if you have anything else you would like to add, and also be sure to reply to each and every comment. And if you found the video helpful, be sure to smash the like button and consider subscribing to my channel for more cutting edge guides. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.